Good afternoon. We're gonna call to order the Horry County Solid Waste Authority regular meeting, November 19th, 2019, at 5:30 p.m. We're gonna have the invocation by Mr. Sam Johnson, and the pledge of allegiance by Mr. Mike Kemp.
Everybody in. Dear Heavenly Father, we come together, please keep the circle of friends and employees together and keep us safe from all evils of society, both mentally and physically. Keep us on the right path that you see fit, and when we waver from that path, please push us back down it. With all this we say, amen.
Amen. Let's make the flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need to get an approval of the agenda.
I do, sir.
I get a second. That's been second. Any questions? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, and the agenda has been approved. Also need to get approval of the October minutes.
So move.
Been properly moved in second. Are there any questions? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion has been carried. The minutes have been approved. Miss, I forgot your name, but I want to welcome you for coming. I understand you're from the Myrtle Beach community, and we're glad to have you here tonight. So, welcome from the board.
Yes.
Had no request for public input, so we'll move on to the department reports, and we'll have recycling and corporate affairs.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Our report begins on page 11. We're going to begin with a thank you for still allowing and approving the annual employee dinner that was held on November 1st. We all, I'm speaking for those who I spoke to, had an excellent time. It's good to be able to enjoy fellowship with other employees, and hardly ever do we get the chance to do that. So for those who shared thank yous to me, I want to share with you, thank you very much for allowing us to continue that tradition. Hope everybody had a great time. We, in your board packet and on the screen, we have the
But
pictures.
before you move on to that, let me just publicly thank you for all the work that you guys do in putting that together for the staff. You do a great job. I think everybody had a great time. I always enjoy it because at least I get to see all the staff in one place. So thank you for all the work that you do for that.
We have a great committee that works together, and thank you for
Now,
technology.
remarkable attendance.
If you,
Yeah.
How about that?
the attendance is, I know that Danny can talk to this, that the attendance percentage is absolutely outstanding. When we were at the county, we almost had to play like dentist and pull teeth to get people to show up. And here you almost have to close the doors to kind of keep them open.
Yes.
Yeah, so whatever you're doing, you're doing it right, so it's not broke, don't fix it.
I think they showed their appreciation for us continuing through their attendance. So it's definitely not a futile effort. They do enjoy coming. And then I did in your packets have pictures of our 3 recipients of the Employee of the Year awards. Next, I want to do an America's Recycles Day update. Friday, this past Friday, was America's Recycles Day. And we took the time all of last week to visit every recycling center. We did that Monday through Thursday. Spent an hour at every center and just thanked our customers who come out and use the centers and recycle, and talk to those who maybe weren't so keen on recycling to try to get them persuaded. And we did have a drawing for those who pledged to continue to recycle or to begin recycling. So what's not in your booklet or your board packet is we had Miss Wanda Marine. She's a recycler at the Lord's Recycling Center. She won the $50 gift card that we gave away for those who we talked to at centers. And she came by today and picked it up, and she was very, very grateful And I'm thankful for being chosen as our recipient. And we were thankful that she was out recycling, because I met her on last Wednesday afternoon. Wednesday was the day that we decided to end summer. We had every season that day. We started off with spring, summer, then we went to fall, and by about 3 o'clock that afternoon, when it was cold and rainy, we were definitely in winter. And I met her about 3:30 that afternoon out in the rain and cold and wind, and she actually, I said, "You wanna talk to me? I'll come, and before I can get, I'll come to you." She was out the car, around the car, and then over by, we had the hood up, not the hood, the hatch up, so we wouldn't get soaking wet. So she was very, very gracious today when she came to see us. We also, on America's Recyclers Day, had a joint event up at Market Common with the city of Myrtle Beach. You see pictured there, Ms. Hooks, Ms. Johnson, and Ed Marr from the city of Myrtle Beach. And they look cold because Friday, as you know, it was cold, and it was wet, and it was rainy. But we did get to talk to a few people there at Market Common. So we think this whole campaign went very well last week, and we did get to talk to several residents and utilize it for the centers.
Before they left that morning, I asked Victoria if she had a almanac. And she said, "A what?" I said, "We're gonna have to get you one."
That's right, that's exactly right. My next update is just the recycling center of the quarter was awarded to the Brooksville Recycling Center. If you're ever in the neighborhood, out there in the Brooksville community, stop by and see Miss Mary R. Jones and Mr. Bill McFarland. They run that center, and Miss Mary's been out there maybe about a year now. She came from Scipio, and she's doing an excellent job. She's very proud of that center, and she should be, so acknowledgments to them. Next, our Clark Green Hand winner from the month of October, Mr. Jim Van Dusen. He's a very, very understanding, kind-hearted individual. He was at the center, and he came up and he asked if I worked there, and I said, depending on what he needed. And he explained to me that he was driving behind a car, and there was something dangling from the car, and it fell, and it was a kitten.
Oh, my God.
And he stopped in the middle of the road, got out of his car, got the kitten, and when he came to the center, he had the kitten with him, and he was asking what could we help him do with it. He has a home in the Surfside area, but he's part-time resident here, part-time resident up north, and he said he was going to be going back, and he couldn't take the cat on the plane, and he didn't know what to do. And so we were out there with Mr. Jim for about 20, 30 minutes until this lovely couple decided they would take the kitten. But he was definitely, and he said, well, can y'all watch the kitten while I go ahead and do my stuff? I got to take my stuff around the center. Sure, we'll do that. But it was.
But we don't know if that couple's still married today.
That's exactly right, because it wasn't a mutual agreement initially.
Yeah.
But it left with them, that's all that mattered, it actually rode in the car with them. But Mr. Jim was very gracious, and then very thankful that he was actually selected, after all of that, he said he's got to be our card-handed person. Thank goodness he was a type one. And I think that's all I have for you, unless you had some questions.
Just wanted to
Yes,
mention
sir.
that Saturday was the last
Oh,
of
yes.
our Keep Horry County Beautiful tarp giveaways. And we were at the Laura Swap Shop. And it was cold and rainy and windy. And our employees are in the worst of environments. And it was clean. They are attentive to all of our patrons. And I was impressed with the staff there. We planned to stay for 2 hours. We were going to give away 100 tarps. We had to give away 80 in an hour. I thought that was good enough.
Yes.
But our employees had to remain for their full shift. And I have a lot of respect for that. That was really an awful day.
Yeah, yes, it was,
And-
it really was.
But I must say that site is well kept, and we have terrific staff people.
Very good, I'll be sure to pass that on.
Please.
Thank you.
And also, I saw Talking Trash.
Okay.
With Kendra, and they did a great job. Those kids were excited. I guess it's up in Loris. Was Lawrence Middle School, Lawrence?
We went to
El-
Lawrence Middle School, Lawrence Elementary, Daisy Elementary, and then I believe River Oaks, if I'm correct. We
I
have
don't
three
know which
winners.
school, but I know they was having a good time. I
They
said, boy, I
did.
missed that one. I wish I had been there. It was
Well,
fun.
our
Let me
next-
know
Our
when
next
they
film
do it,
meeting
yeah.
will be in December, and I will send you all an email when we get the winner and the dates and the places, and to make sure you can at least have the opportunity to attend. I told Danny when I got back, I went to the Daisy presentation, and when I got back, I told Danny, I said, I kind of forgot some of the things that helped our partners this year, which is WNBF and MIM Media, that helped them while they were a step above. And I'm sitting there, and we've got about 6 mascots there, from whether it was the Pelicans or Mellow Mushroom, which I didn't know they had a mascot. We had 6 different besides our own. And I'm sitting there saying, wow, and then they're all, kids are, mascot crazy. And then we did a little bit of presentation, and they said, are you ready for some magic? I said, oh man, it's a magic show too. So we got a mini magic show. Played games with the teachers and did a presentation, all within about 20 minutes.
Yeah. They looked like they were having fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a very good, it's working, it's still working. But I'll let you know.
From the kid.
No, I didn't recognize, I thought she was a kid at first, because she was just having too much fun.
I love it when employees enjoy their work.
That's
They
right.
enjoy
She was
their
having too
work.
much fun.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Finance and Administration,
Good evening.
good afternoon.
Financial reports begin on page 19. We are now through 4 months of the year, budget year. As you can see, starting kind of at the tipping fees, we do have a decrease of 1.65% over where we were last year. And that really has to do with the storm debris we received last year this time. So like I said, we're staying right on track, as you can see, actually ahead of budget. Through the 4 months, we should be at about 33.32% of budget. And as you can see, our solid waste is at 38.57% of budget, mixed construction of 35.64, and our yard waste has come up to even 34.10. So each of those are well above budget, which is great. As you can see, our recyclable sales still are slightly below at 27.2% of budget. At the bottom, you can see the C&D processing facility, 17.66 days of landfill airspace has been saved. And our MRF and collection in Holland has saved 34.35 days of landfill airspace. And the store, 0.027 days of landfill airspace. Over on page 21, got the income statement. And as you can see, total revenue year to date, we're at 36.69% of budget, which is a good bit, a little bit ahead of budget, which is what we like to see. And our expenses continue to be below budget at 31.04% of budget. As you can see, for the current month, we have revenue over expenses of $234,950.94. And year to date, we have revenue over expenses of $1,421,926.85. Again, I have to commend staff on continuing to watch the expenses. They're doing a good job. Just wanted to kind of point out on those expenses over on page 23, it's just our operating expenses report. And as you can see, each department, the administration division overall is only at 28% of budget. The operations division is right at 32% of budget. And the public education is at 28.85% of budget. So like I said, just to show, like I said, the staff is doing a great job of watching their expenses and keeping them well below budget. One other thing I just was going to point out, of course, Mike, I'm sure we'll get into this on the C&D recycling facility on page 29. They processed 1,443 tons of material over there this month, which is about 200 tons more than they did last month. So they're continuing to send more material over there and continuing to process more and more. The last thing I have for you is on the last page, on page 33 and 34. Since we've completed our audit, I have the actual transfer that we can do each quarter, and this is our year-end transfer. And after we took a look at our financial reports, as you can see, based on the 15% revenues that we set aside, we had $2,230,000 $168,166 that we could transfer into designated funds. And as you can see, I'm recommending that we transfer $980,166 into our general construction development and $1,250,000 into our equipment replacement. Those are the two accounts that I mentioned to you, of course, during our budget process that we were going to start running into deficits with, especially with our equipment replacement fund.
We just bought a big dozer. I mean, that was a huge expense.
Exactly, and especially continuing to watch those equipment, putting off purchasing, but we know that those funds definitely are going to run in the negative, like I said. So this is one way that we can actually help to build those funds back up. And so that's what I'm recommending for our year-end transfer, to transfer those funds into those designated accounts.
Okay. You need a,
I make a recommendation that, approve.
Second motion.
properly moved in second. Are there any questions? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. It's been approved. Thank you.
Just one other thing too, Danny and I both had spoken with Angie Jones. I've been kind of keeping up with her on the collateral information. And she did inform me last week that she had talked with the bank and talked with the county, and she is in the process of putting together a letter. It doesn't require any signatures from us. It just has to come from her and from the county in order to get this finalized. So she is in the process of getting that letter together. She hoped to have it finished today, but she got called away. So we're hoping that by the next week or two, she'll have that finalized, and so we will have the blanket collateralization in place so that we won't see any issues with that in the future.
Thank you for pursuing that.
Is there anything she thinks we need to do to help her with that?
No, ma'am, there's nothing that we need to do. There's something that they can handle on their own.
In talking with her today, I asked her, you think you'll have it done before our next meeting? And she said, yeah. I said, if you want to come out and explain that to the board, I think they would be happy to hear from you if y'all would like.
I think that would be good.
Okay.
Let's just invite
All
her
right.
so that we'll hear it firsthand.
And that way she knows there's no animus on our
Right,
part.
right. So
It's
we
her.
want to make sure that she doesn't think that we're out here with a whip trying to beat her. We just want to understand what's going on and give her the opportunity to let us know what's happening. And so I think the board, if we have any questions, we can do it at that time. So
Okay, I sure will. She'll appreciate that.
Thank you.
And just a reminder too, that we had, I sent out a date for December 17th for the pre-budget workshop. If you could just verify that that date still works for everybody before we get it advertised. We're kind of close on dates. I know the 18th and 19th are days that are kind of unavailable for most people. So that's kind of our last date before the new year that maybe we can get this meeting in. So just verify that date with me. If we could get a chance this week, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Besser, operations.
That nice bulldozer that Mr. Ives just brought up, I'm gonna show you a picture of it operating. This bulldozer he's talking about is our first electric bulldozer. So if somebody thinks electric, they think it's full of batteries. It's not. It's got an engine in it. It runs basically at idle, about 1,000 RPMs, and it runs a generator which runs the drives. That's it right here. Our employees have fell in love with it, said it's quiet, don't make much noise, and it pushes more garbage than a diesel bulldozer.
How do you know to get out of the way?
Sir?
How do you know to get out of the way? It's so quiet.
They sort of got it pretty good there. They do well coordinating between that big, packer there than that bulldozer. But it runs basically the same, has more power than the diesel engine does, and it's quiet. One of the big things that caught our eye when we were doing some research on it was the amount of fuel savings it'll have. We're looking at saving about 8,500 gallons of diesel a year. That's close to $20,000 in money a year just in diesel fuel alone. This dozer is made to be able to run up to 20,000 hours, where normally I would run about 10,000 hours. So it could, with a modification to it or a rebuild of the generator at about 12,000 hours, could go up as much as 20,000 hours.
Can you back that up a little bit? I like those wheels on it. It looks like it's got terrific traction.
Trash.
Did you see the wheels on?
I saw it, yeah, I like that.
Yes.
What does it cost to charge it?
There's no charging to it, so so there's a small engine in it, small diesel engine in it. Let's say you got a big 6-horse, come on, Richie, come on up here. Richie can tell you more about it than I can. I kept telling him not to get him up here.
Richie been all up in the middle of it.
So it has the same engine as our original Bulldozer 6T, but, and it has a generator behind it, so when you start the engine up, it only needs 1,100 RPM. It runs a generator, and it gives it more power than it could ever need. We actually turned the Bulldozer down because it had so much power, so we could see how much fuel we could save. Our 6T that we've had for 3 years, the average fuel burn is about 6.8 gallons per hour. And the new one, we've had about 300 hours, and at the average, it's 3.25 gallons per hour. So there's a huge savings, and actually, we have more idle time now because of it's so productive. So by idling it more, it's not moving, we're saving on undercarriage, it's keep adding it up, hours, time. This was the right choice and the right way to go. Any questions?
Well, what was the difference in the cost of a regular one and now?
It was about, when we originally bought our 6T, it was $375, and that was 3 years ago. The new one was $450, and the electric was $512. So how we figured what they said we would save on fuel, it was worth the savings of the extra money.
Okay.
That's how we figured the difference.
So with the efficiency of it, it'll balance out for the monies that we paid for.
Right, we can't, I argue with you all the time, we can't get them in the old dozer.
Right.
That was the best thing since sliced bread. Now, that got kicked to the curb and they don't want to be in the electric.
Do they make all the other equipment that we use in electric as well? or
Are there any
just that?
No.
companies that's electric?
That's the only one.
Okay.
Here we're ready.
I'm sure in the future it's gonna
They got a
come.
D7. They running a D7 in electric also.
Yes, but that is like, I wanna say almost 800,000.
Yeah.
That's a little out of our,
Yeah,
and too
Yeah, that's
big.
a little out of my range there, I'll stick to
Yeah.
this one.
yeah.
Also, to add to that, they were, this one right here, the operators are telling me, when I went out and talked to them, said, we can push a whole load at one time. Where the other one, we had to get part of the load and then come back and get the other part. So that's what Richie's talking about efficiency, you can push it, and a lot of times they just pull over to the side, idle it down, so you're not wearing the tracks out up under it. You're able to make just one push where you were making two before.
Okay.
So it's definitely a good, I think it's gonna end up being a good project for us, or a good, bulldozer for us. And, you know, you think about all the hours and stuff that it needs to run on, it's gonna be good. The MRF update, want to talk a little bit about that. As we've been looking, you know, from FY19 versus FY20 so far this year, we've had an increase in the amount of material that we take in to the MRF. I'll give you an idea of the amount of material in the first 4 months of FY19, we took in about 7,200 tons. And then this year, we already took in about 7,500 tons of recyclable products. Our pricing, give you an idea of last month, we were selling, in October, we were selling cardboard, newspaper for $85. This month it went down to $25.18. OCC was basically the same, and our office paper was basically the same. Now, we did see an uptick in PET prices. You know, we sold some for $80. They're up to about $120, $125 now. Our HDP colored, which is your Clark's jugs and stuff, went from about $300 to $1,000. That was a big jump. Aluminum's been basically the same, so it's a hard market. We haven't, you know, of course, wet material is a problem. Getting rid of, that's what we've been having the hardest time to get rid of, is wet material. When we look at on the national average, if you get this Recycle America magazine, it'll tell you the average prices being sold for material. We're running about 11% higher than the national we get for our material. It's better than the national average, but it's still bad compared to where we were. And I don't see it, based on what we saw in Phoenix, Arizona, and talked to people there, and when we went to that conference, they don't see any changes to about 2021. They're gonna see, they're seeing the markets be pretty much stable for that period of time. They're waiting for additional mills to come online. A lot of them won't come online. It's being built here in America to 2021, and they don't see any changes in it. Very little changes in the commodity prices for that period of time. There was a lot of good information out there when we went to Phoenix. We were able, I think the biggest thing about that, talking about the recycling stuff, that we got out there was every conference you went into was talking about contamination. No bags, getting people educated. That was the only way you won't help to get rid of your products and get the best price for them, was not having them contaminated. That was, of course, we went to a lot of other conferences out there. Campbell may want to go into them, but they're working.
Since you mentioned that, one of the things, and I think I called the day y'all were flying back, but one of the things in the conference was a proposal from Canada. And I don't know if you've seen anything like that or not, but it was some kind of machine that dries, takes the wetness and moisture out of things before you get to a certain process, and
We saw one from Germany like that.
Yeah, Germany had a booth out there, and they had,
We went through a presentation, Mr. Campbell and I went through a presentation with them and watched that. Of course, we had our business cards, but for some reason, we're being inundated with people with waste energy plants. We got one, just out today from the city of Myrtle Beach, somebody been down there that wants to talk to them. But it's, it's all the same thing, but when you get to looking at them, it's that cost per ton. The one that just showed to us, told us it was $97 a ton, what it cost, to process it.
the process I was talking about wasn't really waste energy. It was some kind of process taking the wet or drying it before you actually go through that. And I was wondering if it wasn't drying it so that we could pull out more of the recyclables from it.
So the one we saw up there that was in Phoenix was a drying process. It dried it first, then it carried it through a big auger because it was a big heated area. Then took it through a big auger and took all the metal out of it. And then it took the rest of everything and turned it to carbon and other type of products. He's told us, the first question I asked him, where can I go see one of these? Well, Germany. Everyone I seen comes here, it's in Germany.
they got 3 plants operating, Germany, France, and China. They're in operation.
Nothing here in the U.S.?
Nothing
They
in the
don't have
US.
anything here.
Nothing in the US.
It's a bit far.
Yes.
Every one of the waste energy processes we looked at out there, that's what it was, most of them was overseas. There's one now that, and we've had conversations with one, we've been talking to the last two or 3 months. That we've talked to them about, and they've sent some different information, but they had never talked to DDEC to find out if they would be approved.
But it will surprise me, the waste to energy things that they're having with what the federal government's gonna be looking at, the FIFA, with everything we have with that in that, if that wouldn't be a problem with them burning it waste to energy and putting it in the air. I won't know a whole lot about that before that would be a choice.
Yeah, was in a conference about PFAS.
Right.
About what Michigan was doing, what New Hampshire was doing, and what the private industry was doing. The private industry looked at it and said that they were just restricting any industrial waste. Well, we really don't have that problem here. We don't have a lot of industrial here.
But they did say it was coming.
It was coming. They felt like it was coming in 2021. Some kind of regulations from EPA, and then they would give you so many years to do it. In our situation, Grand Strand would be telling us, you gotta reduce your content because we transfer it out to Grand Stream.
Right.
Or either we pay them to handle it for us. Because reverse osmosis is about the only way to handle it, they say.
That's expensive.
And we'll have some information in our budget workshop about.
Yeah, in Asheville, they had that, and reverse osmosis was, I think it was 98% that got out of.
Yeah, but it's 10 times the expense.
Yeah.
Right.
I think Vance is looking at what they did in New Hanover County to get us kind of a budget idea.
Okay.
And I think we won't budget it 1 year, we'll budget over so many years. And then when they put the guidelines in, we'll be kind of in front of the power curve we go.
Okay.
The other thing that we saw while we were out there, if we ever have to go into the food waste business, the manufacturers out there that built trucks and all the equipment to handle the food waste. And it's manufactured here in the United States was the first thing they called out, right? I mean, it was, but they have, Perkins was the name of the manufacturer.
The local board haven't heard about them yet.
Evidently, the local boy hadn't, no.
Maybe we should pass that information on.
Might be good if they heard that,
Food business.
We definitely got a lot of information out there. There was a lot of talking about MRFs and the changes that were going on in MRFs and the private industries going to where they're charging a per ton rate. I mean, you might want to.
Yeah, talking about take the cost of operating the MRF is what you're gonna use as a tipping fee. Take the annual operating cost, break it down into, a tipping fee rate, and that's what you're gonna charge the cities. Now, what you do though, is you reward the cities, all right, we, everything that we recover and everything that we sell, we're gonna give you 80% of it, and we're gonna keep 20. So that means, well, don't look at me like that, Ms. Creech.
I think she's just
Hey,
trying,
including's not good percentage of
Yeah,
the-
But you,
It's a negotiable,
yeah,
but they're gonna pay us.
They
We're gonna
gonna
give them
pay-
a tipping fee.
that's right, they gonna pay us whatever it costs to run the MRF.
And then once we sell it or
You will.
whatever, then they get
They
80%.
get a rebate.
You get a rebate.
What the private industry's doing, Mr. Chairman, is that they're saying, we're gonna make 20% off our operating costs at all costs. So we're gonna get our money back for what it costs us to operate, and we're gonna get 20% of the material, which guarantees them 20% profit, which is what a corporation looks to get, about 20%
at
profit.
some point in time, we're going to have to separate the two. Because if we keep improving, last year, we saved 6 months of airspace. When it gets to 8 months of airspace, recyclables are outweighing what we're putting in the landfill. And we can't support that with tipping fees at the gate.
Right.
We're gonna have to separate the two streams and find a revenue model that works, and I like that.
But this was from one of the
Let's
private.
guarantee 20%.
Plus, it guarantees you that you're not gonna lose.
You just got to know what it costs you to run your.
You gotta know what it costs.
Yeah.
money.
That's,
But you-
the concern I have is that we need to guarantee not losing.
Yeah. And you
We
also
did the-
have,
We did the exact same thing with Charleston on the situation. We
Yeah.
got beat to death.
Absolutely.
on doing that.
And it kept us in the black. But,
It was a challenge.
and this is another item we'll have discussion at the pre-budget.
But there's also a capital cost to all of that, and the capital cost we already have invested.
If we divert so much more than 6 months, then we
Yeah,
can't,
you
you can't rely on that stream
Right.
to pay for everything.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
All right, our driver of the
What if you
month.
talk-
Let me back up collection and hauling. I'm gonna let y'all know
Hold on
what's
just a
going on with
minute.
collection and hauling.
Sam,
you were saying?
what if the city, once you go that route, they make it mandatory to recycle?
Never do.
Come on,
Start small, grow big. And that would increase more recycling coming in, more revenue going out.
The only way that would work would be to do mandate recycling, because right now, the people that are, and you can just think about this before the board meeting, or before the workshop meeting, is that all people in the county are paying for recycling, whether they're recycling or not.
Right.
If you put a tipping fee at the MRF, you only penalize, or you're only charging the people that's recycling.
Recycling.
That was the point I was getting to when you start exceeding the 6 months diversion rate.
So you need to think about that. All people's paying for it now, whether you recycle or not.
And that's what we can talk to the political people about. You're paying for it, why not make it mandatory so it pays for itself?
So,
On collection and hauling, just want to give you all a little bit of update. We have put the camera system in the trucks, that's working good. We're also putting in a waste system. So every location that we go to, we estimate and turn into the city. In these reports you see in here, we have to estimate it and do it all manually. So we add up all those numbers, go through all the route sheets and come up with that number manually. We put a set of scales on the truck, it will automatically give it to us now. There won't be no manual stuff. It'll be true factual numbers. When the can's picked up and dumped, it's weighed, when it's set back down. And it's put to that specific customer. What it will do for us is two things. One of them, that if a customer hasn't got a full container, let's say, like on the route today, it had 4 containers that was picked up that was less than 100 pounds. We know that a full box weighs about 250 pounds. If it's full of cardboard and recycled, weighs about 250 pounds. It weighed 100. Instead of us going to that site every week, we can say, once we get enough data that we can run these reports, and we can take it to the customer, look here, you only half full, we're gonna carry you every other week.
Right, okay.
Some of them may be once a month, some of them, maybe once every other month or something like that. But we'll have the true facts and the things right now, we have to estimate what it is when we do it. So these numbers that you have in here is a lot of estimating. Starting in January, we will have actual numbers.
Okay, good.
Our driver of the month was Mike Brazier. He works with the city of Conway. He's been there a right good while. The employees that are, as y'all know, accept those, make the recommendations for those drivers of the month.
Thank you. That's,
Y'all not upset with me, but my wife's birthday, and I'm gonna sneak out here just as soon as I can.
I wouldn't worry about us being upset with us. You better worry about whether, if you don't get there, whether she's gonna be upset.
She said she may be sitting having a few adult drinks when I come.
I do admire her though, she buys herself a present on her birthday.
She did. Independent woman.
Absolutely.
That's pretty neat.
That's good. I have to buy mine.
It means you.
She bought
I
herself a
buy,
Oh, did you?
well, I can't go that big. Thanks, Mike. Danny?
Thanks, sir. We start on page 51 and kind of got good news, what we've done with the Association of Counties. And you will see
So you hit the right topics.
some of the things they've done, and you just see on page 53, the waste high regulations giving DHEC some teeth in the law. What we've got added is page 54, and we're trying to generate some kind of fund to ban on the e-waste. And we've kind of left it open to where, there's 2 processes on this. You can charge so much at the point of sale, then that money goes to the state, and then it's split out in percentages and all that. And some states have gone to the point that the manufacturers have to have a collection center in each county or in a city over 10,000 population, and they have to run that process. Stuff is just taken there. So, I've given the, Association of Counties that information that we've collected, and, this will go into their big, recommendations in Charleston next month. And, I may attend that, just if there's any questions, if there's any kickback, that we can respond it and try to keep it on the state level. Page 55 shows you who's on this committee, and, I'm a president appointee and, Art's on it and, but you can see the list, but, I think it's a pretty big thing to get it
Yes.
listed.
Good job.
Good.
Okay, Esther, you want to, talk about page 59, new business, when we get there?
Okay, well, that's all you got?
Yeah.
Any questions for Danny? We don't have any committee reports and no old business, so I guess we'll move on down to new business.
Hello again.
You again?
Me again.
Good to see you.
Give it away, Mike.
It's good to be seen. Page 59. I'm there. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Carr. Okay, on page 59, we did receive another solid waste grant application on November the 7th from the Norfolk Beach Chamber of Commerce. And the time frame between getting the application, reviewing the application, and this meeting wasn't enough time to have a committee meeting. So I talked to Danny, he talked to the chairman, agreed to bring it to the full board, so they didn't have to wait till December to get notification on whether or not the grant was approved. They're requesting $10,000 to take their educational program that they did last year to a next step. The goal is to develop an educational program where it tells all renters in the city of North Myrtle Beach, if you're renting property in North Myrtle Beach, to give them information on how and where to recycle. The goal is that every unit would have information within the unit for whomever might be staying there. As was the case last year with the plastic educational campaign that they ran, all the information will be approved by the Solid Waste Authority prior to being published or distributed. The committee reviewed the materials. They received a favorable rating. And so we're recommending that the board approve their application for $10,000 for this education program.
So moved.
Second. Been properly moved in second. Are there any questions? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Ayes have it. It's been approved. Thank you.
Have we had anyone else? Isn't that the fourth one we've approved this year?
That's third. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so
No
we don't
one else
have
has
anyone
something.
else. Wonder how we could get some other people to be interested in this.
We've ran it in several papers. We've ran it on the county's public access channel. We've sent it to every municipality, school districts, colleges, and a few agencies that I had talked to during the year.
Makes me believe they got money.
Well, I was gonna say, it's hard to give away $10,000.
And it's on our website, so I
This proposal is an outstanding proposal. It's hard enough to inform our residents on procedures, but visitors don't have a clue. And this is a way to clue them in. I think it's outstanding.
I think it's a good
Yeah,
idea.
they did a great job last year.
They got a bang-up crew going up there now. Esther and Victoria is going to those meetings. They'll be our contact. The chamber is really involved in it.
yes, sir.
The city staff. So, I think they're gonna do good stuff on that end.
I would love to see Myrtle Beach try to do some education in their motels and restaurants.
Well, we've made that presentation several times, and we're going again, I believe before the end of this month, to the Myrtle Beach Chamber of Commerce to do a presentation. We do try.
Do they have like a hotel, motel association kind of thing that we tried to talk to
We
them?
talked to them several
We've been
times.
in front of them
Yes,
and
sir. We won't stop.
we'll go
going.
back.
Take them, we're gonna send Ben with you.
Let me know when you're going.
Send the hatchet.
We'll take the hatchet out there.
Yeah.
We'll come back with something. Maybe less of an arm, but you'll come back.
No, I can't.
But, yeah, okay, good. Well, look like you've been hitting all the cracks, so I don't know, people, I guess they just got plenty of money and they don't have time.
It's, the incentive is there, and we publicize it as well as we know how.
Yeah, right. Okay, we'll go to roundtable discussion. Anything for the good of the cause? Go ahead, sir.
Last night was the third meeting of Green Drinks. The conservation community has been offering a night once a month for all the conservation groups to meet. And I was the speaker last night and was presenting Keep Horry County Beautiful, but all the questions were on recycling.
Okay.
And they asked for a recycling program. There are a lot of questions out there about how to recycle, and we need to do more. We do a great job with the schools, but we need to fill in other groups too and educate them. So any way we can, we need to educate. But it was a terrific, we had 48 people there last night, and they were really hungry to know more about what we do here. We're gonna have more requests for tours, and Audubon is already setting up their birding tour. But it was terrific to have an audience like that was so enthusiastically interested about our work.
And I think anytime that we have an opportunity when we're different organization meetings and stuff, is to invite people out and if they have questions about recycling, I'll let Danny and them know, and maybe they can go present, or they can come to the Solid Waste Authority, and if we get enough, we can have a presentation for them. So,
Yes.
I mean, you know, I know that it's out there, but every time I see somebody, I try to talk to them about recycling, and I think it's just something that we have to keep beating on. We were gonna talk about finance, but I think Jan did that, and I think we're gonna have that come at the next meeting, let her discuss what we have for that. You need to remember that the December 12th meeting, the December meeting will be on the 12th, and it will be at 1 p.m. And we need to let them know about the 17th, whether or not we can actually have that meeting. I think I have to look at my calendar, and I promise to let them know by
And
Thursday.
what that meeting, we want to do, generally after Christmas, we send out the budget form, and everybody puts their budget together, and we put it in a folder, and then we have a meeting, we present it to y'all. First time you kind of see what we put together, but we listen through the course of the year. And this pre-budget meeting is to get some ideas from the board, get some ideas on what we're thinking. And at the end of that meeting, we've kind of got some direction on what to put together. You're not approving anything, you just say, let's put this together where we can understand what we can do and how we can do it, and if there's gonna be a tipping fee increase, how much, what that'll generate. We'll bring you up to speed on where we are with the finances, another month over what we've heard tonight. But it's it's gonna be round table pretty much. Vance will be here to talk about the closure and post-closure and the construction accounts and how those are done, and how he projects those to give you some comfort level on the money there. But I think it'll be a couple of hours that we can get some direction, and when we start putting a real budget together, we'll have you input.
Sounds like a good idea.
I'm terrifically enthused.
Yeah,
that we're
that's
doing
good.
this.
At least we'll know what will be in the real budget. We'll have some input. You had something, Pam?
I just wanted to ask Mr. Campbell if he checked on the one thing I needed to get information on in that conference.
That was the waste to energy thing that we just talked about.
Robotics.
Oh, robotics, yeah. It looks like the robotic, overseas people are running the robotics. And it is coming, but it's expensive. So, but it will save us some time and labor, but the cost of owning it and buying it now, but the overseas people are using it.
And what amazes me, you hear people fighting the robotics. You're gonna do these things, you're gonna put us out of a job. And you advertise for a job, you can't get anybody to apply, and if they apply, then they got
Not qualified.
testing they can't pass, and I don't know what we're gonna do for labor in 10 years.
Right, well, in 10 years, I would hope that the prices come down and,
Oh,
you know, we're not gonna, I don't think we're gonna put anybody out of a job. No one wants the jobs to do the picking up on that MRF, and I don't blame them, you know. But that's a hard, nasty job. I don't blame them for that, but,
I've told a lot of parents, I said, if you want to encourage your kid to go to college, we got a summer job for them in Merck.
absolutely, if you don't get an education, this is what you're gonna do.
I got a question, I'm not doubting what you say, but you say the other countries are using this.
Right, that's,
And their workforce works a lot cheaper than our workforce.
well, that's true.
So how is it working for them if labor costs them less than it does us, and it won't work for us?
We just got to do a little more research, Mr. Jones. We'll just have to research it a little bit further. See if you want to pursue the robotics a little further, we'll.
My
you know.
guess
You
is
know,
we
I'm
don't have
saying the
enough
numbers
trash.
don't have
Yeah, I-
product.
Numbers don't
The
match
numbers
up.
don't make sense to me.
Going back 2 years ago, they did a whole program when I was in Cherokee about the robotic arms, and at that time, they were still saying if the cost, they never explained why the cost, but the cost is one prohibitive. And the perfection of this thing is the other one that they're still looking at, and that's been 2 years ago. So they're still, even though they have it out there, the cost is prohibitive, and then the efficiency of it is not what people thought it was gonna be. So there's still some glitches. And and I forget where these guys were from, but anyway, they're saying that it's evolutionary. It will come, but when it's gonna get here and when the cost is gonna go down, your guess is good as mine.
And
Well, I don't know what country this is in that they're using that, but I would like to suggest that we send Campbell.
Well, I think the board is in agreement with you with that. As long as, I mean, I tell you what I'll
With
do.
no authority.
I will find out what country it's in, and I'll bring it back at the December
You got a
meeting.
motion.
And we got somebody to go.
Make sure he speaks the language.
I heard it maybe in Hong Kong, I don't know.
That sounds like a good
We're
country.
And we had one-way ticket to
Make sure he speaks the language, I'm gonna pay for an interpreter.
But you did hear what Mr. Jones said with no authority.
Well, we had already anticipated that, but we know that he speaks every language. We know this, because if you watch him at a conference, he talks to everybody.
Anybody, that's true.
Anybody, and if you wanna know the family history, just ask him, I guarantee you. We're not gonna take up time to do that tonight, but he'll be.
If you talk to Chinese, he just talks slow and loud. That way they'll understand.
I understand.
that's okay, that's your
We
superpower.
love you anyway, Mike.
All right.
Carl, you had something?
Yeah, talking about foreign countries and whatever else, I just ran a report last week, week before, where there's a firm in England that has developed an enzyme that's a byproduct of a organism that devours plastic. And they anticipate it probably being readily available or being available more or less in probably about 18 months. So maybe if we got time, we got some patience, and
Well, no, but
Mr.
you
Campbell's
should.
World Round John, he might want to include England in his trip to find the organisms that provide the enzymes that break down the plastics.
And hopefully they're smart enough when they ship us ours, they don't put it in a plastic box.
No, it comes in a black box,
Black.
and it's sealed attached.
Yeah, and we really need to do some research to make sure that there's no plastic in there, even though it's a little black
That's
box.
right.
Because the enzymes may not get here, but it
That's
sounds,
right.
it sounds reasonable.
Yeah, it is.
ship gets here.
Yeah, they're rather excited about it. 'Cause
You say 18 months?
Yeah, they anticipate about about a year and a half to 2 years.
I think Clemson tried that, didn't
I was up at Clemson about 15 years ago when Clemson tried that, and the big thing up there is it works really good in the lab because it's temperature controlled, but then when the organisms came outside, they were like a lot of the people who live in New York and Massachusetts and whatever else, they don't like the cold winter, so they come down here. And what happened is the organisms died before they got a chance to move here.
The move.
And that's why they call it theory, because theory always works on paper. It's
Yeah, it
only when,
does, so.
when you get it into
But they had
practicality.
some good lab things that.
But it sounds good.
They
had some good lab things that-
55-gallon trash can with water hose in it.
Yeah.
We paid for it, and it was an expensive trash can.
Well, you know, they also have had some studies on, mushrooms and different things that do something with that clean up leachate. And one of the things in North Carolina for hog houses, the leachate that comes from that, is they're having to plant so many dozen poplar trees because the roots of that absolutely
nitrogen.
absorb it and do the nitrogen and do that. So there's a good thought process behind all these things that just have to come to some kind of fruition before.
Yeah, it reminds me of the guy that was gonna clean up all the ocean with his contraption. I don't know
Yeah.
what happened to him. That kind of went awry. And I think the Ensign idea was
Baltimore Harbor
good.
has one.
They have one?
Yeah,
Is it working?
it's working.
Okay, well, that's good. It's not as big as the one that he had out in the ocean, yeah.
Yeah.
But what happens, when you was on this committee, when we went and they talk about the microplastics? You know, what do we do about those things that are existing? I was listening at a report just the other day, it's in your food, it's in rice, it's in flour. It's in everything. In fact, we're probably breathing it right now.
Yeah.
How do we do that? And I understand that those things already exist, and when we look and we need to work back and forward to try to get rid of some of these things. And so, but that's a good idea. Maybe the enzyme thing will work, and maybe the mushrooms, I hope they're edible.
I don't want to eat them.
So it could be a byproduct,
Yeah,
and
that's
get rid
true.
of the
You can use
plastics,
them
and then
there.
you can sell the mushroom, and then we'll have to worry about the ingestions of the mushrooms, whether they ingested or really dissolved all the plastics, so.
And I think
Anyway.
corporate America now is getting into it. I heard this morning Dunkin' Donuts going to paper cups.
Yeah.
So that's where it's gonna be. And
Right.
the big guys are gonna push it down.
If they push it down and they quit doing the styrofoam and the
But
plastics, then.
consumers are
that's-
demanding it, which
yeah.
is
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, because if you go in the grocery store, if you don't give them a plastic bag, they'll get fired.
Yeah.
They've become so accustomed to these bags, and they'll put one little item. I went and bought a little tube of crazy glue, and the lady snatched off a bag. I said, no, lady, I said, just give me the receipt so you don't lock me up when I go out the store with it in my pocket, but I don't need a plastic bag. I got thousands of them at home. Maybe we could recycle the plastic bags back to the Dollar General,
Yeah.
and they wouldn't have to buy so
They
many.
take them, put your bread wrappers in there too.
They take them down here at Lowe's, don't they? Don't they put them in a bin when they get them at Lowe's?
They do in Lowe's.
Food lines go out.
Maybe we could start a campaign and take them back to the
Take
store
'em back
like we
to
used to do the glass bottles.
Those blue glass bottles, yeah.
Anyway, worth a thought. Anything else? Well, if there's nothing else, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
No executive session necessary.
So moved.
No executive session, I don't think.
Move to adjourn.
Well,
Adjourn.